Okay. Hello, everyone. So today we're going to be working on our Milk Mayhem Lab. So I've got a lot of supplies here, and my hope is, again, as I've said before, that by doing a video of this, doing a lab at home, this might be something that you would enjoy a little bit more than just me sending home a worksheet. So my hope is that you guys will actually do it. You don't really have a whole lot of time, or you don't have a whole lot of other things to do. A lot of people are writing me back and saying that they're bored, they just wish we could go back to school and all those things. I know it's kind of stressful. So have something to do, especially a lot of you that are watching your little sisters and little brothers. Maybe you can do this with them and then fill out the worksheet. So here's what we're gonna do is I figured out a way to attach my phone. I invited myself to the meeting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do the lab here with you and then give you some suggestions as we go over a few different things. So let's see if I can go back to inviting myself here in the room. There we go. And start video. Okay, so that's the wrong camera. That's my ceiling. Here we go. All right, so we've got some paper towels here, and hopefully you can see this, but just in case, I'm going to share screen. It's not the screen I was wanting to share. So let's go back. Okay, hopefully this works. So I've got a few different things. Let me grab my milk here. Got some 2%. Got a few other things, some creamer. I have this, what turned out to be not that great almond milk creamer. So give that a shot if you've got something like that. I've got soap, a couple different types of soap, Windex. So you tested a lot of this in class. And I know that probably, again, one of those things is that you want to try to figure out what's going to happen if we test it this way, or I wish we could try this. And by the time you get home, you forget about it. So let's look at this as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the lab as we do this. Okay, so here's the lab. Okay, so I changed it around a little bit. It's called the home edition. So you might notice right in here, this has a QR code. That's going to take you right to the, you can click right here if you're doing this from your PC or your Mac and your iPad or anything like that. If you want to do this with your phone, you can scan this with a QR scanner and it'll take you right to the YouTube video that I recorded. Now, again, we don't want to do too much to overwhelm you, but I recorded with Zoom a full chapter worth of notes. It's not that long. I talked quickly. You're not having to write them down. Those are on the wiki, but if you wanted to watch me reteach some of that, I kind of spent some time doing it. It would be great if you would check that out as well. So some new instructions with this. Now you can do this at home. You may not have all these materials. I'm not that concerned about it. The main thing is design this lab, try to do it in such a way that you can keep things controlled as far as your variables go, and you want to make sure that you're working on this in the right way. Okay, so here's all the notes. Remember, we talked a little bit about some things with polarity. Let's see if I can get the right one here. Okay, there I am, just in case you wanted to see me again. We talked about polarity. Okay, that has a lot to do with this. Adhesion and cohesion, surface tension, non-polar and polar, okay? All those different things, proteins, alcohols, these were all things that we talked about in this chapter. And again, many of you are going to be going on to chemistry next year, and this is probably going to be a great chapter to review for you. So the food coloring and water, we did that as a demo. You can do that at home too. It's basically just putting water in a bowl, putting a couple drops of food coloring, and then touching the soap to it. Remember, it went very quickly. The soap molecules, they have a polar end and a non-polar end. The polar end is going to interact with the water, and the non-polar end, when we wash our hands with grease and stuff, is going to interact with that. Now we get down here to the milk and food coloring. So in class, we had this little chart, skim, 2% whole, half and half. Now, unless your family is large and very particular and have lots of different people that like different types of milk, you probably don't have all of those. So use what you've got. All we have is 2%. Okay, that's the kind of compromise milk that we have in our house. And so, like I said, I found some coffee creamer, and I think it's got some milk in there. Nope, water, corn syrup, sunflower oil, maltodextrin, and then it goes on and on with, carrageenan, sucralose, acesulfamatate potassium. Delicious, right? And then we've got almond milk creamer. So there's no dairy in this either. This is really gross looking, not what I expected it to be. Okay, so use what you've got. If you've only got one type of milk, wonderful. If your whole family is lactose intolerant or you don't like milk, you know, if you wanted to carefully borrow some from a neighbor or a friend, or if you grab some, if you're going out shopping, fine. If you can't, just watch this video, watch a YouTube video. I'm, again, not ignorant to the fact that many people will probably just not do it, but this is for points, and I'd really like it if you guys could do it, and like I said, it'll give you something to do. Okay, so what we're going to be doing with this, so you can see down here in the little corner, let's see if I can figure out which way to go with all these things. I'll make that larger in just a minute. Make a hypothesis, okay? If you remember, we did this already. Okay, the plastic plates, I'm just using a white bowl. I've got 3 of them here because I'm not going to get up and leave the camera to go and wash these out every time, but that's what we did in class. We just washed them out. Okay, the results. Write a different word in here. If all you've got is skim milk, and for me, if I was doing this at home, I'd have my 2% milk, I'd have my coffee creamer, and then I'd have almond milk creamer. But you can get creative. You can do, I mean, the student choice and the original can kind of just all blend together. That's okay. Just tell me what you're going to do. So if you're just changing the substance that you're testing, then you can do that up here. So I could do watered down 2% milk, or half 2% milk, half water, which is really kind of more towards skim milk. Or I could mix the 2% and the coffee creamer and see if that works. Okay, down here, you're going to have your student choice. You could test something different. Now with this, you're going to keep something the same as your control with your regular milk, but you're going to do something different. So you can have a different applicator besides a Q-tip. You can put it in on your finger. If you've got some spray cleaner and you tested that earlier as your soap, then you could just spray it right in, or you could just drop this right in and see what happens. Okay, if you don't have food coloring, that might be another thing. Again, if your shopping pickup is Tuesday and you could add in some food coloring, great, but don't feel like you got to run out and go get this stuff. I guess you could test some hot sauce or barbecue sauce or something. That might affect the results. I'm not terribly concerned about that. Okay, make your predictions. Here's the questions at the end. This is going to be the main thing that I'm going to be looking at, was the results of your manipulated variable and these questions. Okay, guys can email me if you're having any problems with this. So let's stop this share here. Okay, and let's go back to this, and I'll go to this view. Okay, so you can see me. So I got my other camera here. Okay, so hopefully this works now. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna pour the milk in here. All right, so if you remember, as easy as this was, put a drop or two of food coloring in. Like I said, if you don't have any, watch some videos on it. Don't feel like you got to run out and get something. All of this, make sure you're staying safe. If you're working with something other than just little stuff we've got, put on some safety goggles. Make sure you don't get any of this on you. Okay. So got our soap here. And as soon as the soap touches it, goes crazy. Okay, remember we got the little blips that came out. Okay, so remember, describe this as you see it. And that should be pretty straightforward. Okay, so that would be one of your experiments. And so, like I said, I'm not gonna rinse this out every single time because I don't want to get up. But let's try something else. Okay, I had no idea what this was gonna happen until I tried it a few minutes ago, and that recording didn't work. So I'm trying it again. Okay, so I've got my creamer there, my almond milk creamer, which has no dairy in it. Put a couple of drops in. So if it has no dairy and has no protein, and it probably doesn't have a whole lot of polarity and nonpolar molecules that are going to mix around. So nothing. Okay, actually, I'm not quite sure what's in here, but the red and green does make it look nice and Christmassy. Okay, so those are two examples. Remember, we used rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol also has isopropyl alcohol has polar and nonpolar ends. You can mix it in. Remember, it kind of gave it that boiling effect. This was one of the main things we had to do a lab report with this. You don't have to do a lab report with this, okay? But if you remember, what was going on with these was all of the polar molecules and all the nonpolar molecules were rushing as soon as you put the soap or the alcohol, which has a polar end and a nonpolar end. The polar end is interacting with the polar water. The nonpolar end is interacting with the lipids that are nonpolar. And what we're doing with that is it causes this mixing effect. Okay, so if you can't do this lab, watch this video. Maybe, you know, if you wanted to, you could get together with some friends. You've probably been doing Zoom with other things. I'm sure there's other applications that can do that through Google Hangouts. You can do that with, I'm sure Snapchat has some sort of features and things like that. Make a TikTok, whatever you want to do, and give that a shot and see what happens with it. Okay, but what's going on with that is try a few different things. Just tell me what you're doing, answer the questions. Don't spend hours and hours on this. It's supposed to be something that's fun and different that you can do at home. And my hope is that you guys can figure it all out and that you'll actually do it. Hit me up if you got some questions. Hope you have a great day. Keep hanging in there.